People disappear in the wilderness every year. Most are found, sometimes injured, sometimes lost, but found. But there are cases where something else seems to happen. Experienced hikers vanish without leaving a trail. Children disappear within seconds, in areas filled with people. Search teams comb through miles of terrain, and find nothing. No footprints, no scent, no evidence, just silence. Tonight, we're examining real missing persons cases. Cases that investigators searched for. Cases that left behind almost no trace. And cases that still have no clear explanation. What are missing 411 cases? The term, missing 411, is often used to describe a collection of unusual disappearances, primarily in wilderness areas. Many of these cases were compiled and studied by David Paulides, but it's important to understand something clearly. These are not fictional stories. They are real missing persons cases, documented by law enforcement, search and rescue teams, and historical records. What makes them stand out are the patterns. Disappearances happening quickly, little to no evidence left behind, search efforts that fail. Despite overwhelming resources, there are explanations for many of these cases: disorientation, exposure, terrain hazards, accidents. But in some instances, the details don't line up cleanly, and those are the cases we're focusing on tonight. Case 1, Dennis Martin. Location, Great Smoky Mountains National Park. In June of 1969, a 6-year-old boy named Dennis Martin went on a family trip into the Smoky Mountains. At one point, he and several other children began playing a simple game, hide and seek. Dennis ran ahead, hiding behind bushes. Moments later, he was gone. No one saw him leave. No one heard him call out. He simply vanished. Search effort. What followed was one of the largest search operations in the park's history. Hundreds of people joined the effort. Search and rescue teams combed the terrain, helicopters scanned from above, tracking dogs were brought in. And that's where something unusual happened. Tracking dogs. How they work. Tracking dogs rely primarily on scent. Every person leaves behind microscopic skin cells, known as scent particles. Dogs follow this trail across terrain, even hours later. But in Dennis Martin's case, dogs struggled to establish a clear scent trail. Some reports suggest the trail ended abruptly. Why dogs lose a trail? Search experts explain several reasons this can happen. Rain washing away scent particles, temperature changes affecting scent dispersion, terrain like rock surfaces holding less scent, air currents carrying scent away from the ground. On the day Dennis disappeared, a storm moved into the area. Heavy rain fell across the mountains, which may have erased critical evidence within hours. Disturbing witness report. One report described a man running through the woods, carrying something over his shoulder. This sighting was never confirmed, but it added a layer of uncertainty to an already confusing case. Survival window for a child in mountainous terrain, without shelter, 24 to 72 hours in mild conditions. With exposure, significantly less. Dehydration risk increases rapidly. Search teams focused heavily in the first 72 hours, but no trace was ever found. Why the terrain matters. The Smoky Mountains are dense, uneven, and filled with natural hazards. Ravines hidden by foliage, thick underbrush, wildlife, fast-changing weather. Search and rescue experts often say, you can be 20 feet from someone in that terrain and never see them. Dennis Martin was never found. Case 2, DeOrr Kunz Jr. Location, Timber Creek Campground. In 2015, a 2-year-old boy vanished from a campsite in Idaho. His name was DeOrr Kunz Jr. He was last seen near his family's campsite. Moments later, he was gone. Search operation. Search teams responded quickly. Dogs were deployed. Drones were used. Volunteers searched the surrounding area extensively. No trace. Tracking dog behavior. In this case, handlers reported difficulty establishing a scent. This can happen when the subject moves across multiple surfaces. Scent is contaminated by other people. Environmental conditions degrade the trail. Campgrounds are especially difficult. Multiple overlapping scent trails make tracking extremely challenging. Terrain analysis. The area surrounding the campsite included dense brush, rocky ground, nearby water sources. Each of these environments can hide evidence effectively. Survival time for a toddler. Exposure risk is extremely high. Survival time may be less than 24 to 48 hours without assistance, which makes the lack of evidence even more difficult to explain. The case remains unsolved. Case 3. Jared Negrete. Location: San Bernardino National Forest. 12-year-old Jared Negrete was hiking with a Boy Scout troop. At some point, he fell behind the group. When leaders noticed he was missing, a search began. The voice search teams reported something unsettling. Multiple rescuers claimed they heard a voice calling for help. They believed it was Jared, but they couldn't locate the source. Search challenges. Mountain terrain creates acoustic distortions. Sound can travel in unpredictable ways, echoing across valleys, reflecting off rock faces, appearing closer or farther than it actually is. This can lead searchers away from the true location. Tracking limitations. Dogs were used, but again, no consistent trail was found. High elevation terrain often includes loose rock, wind exposure, temperature shifts, all of which degrade scent trails quickly. Survival estimate. In mountainous conditions, hypothermia can occur within hours. Dehydration accelerates fatigue. Navigation becomes extremely difficult. Despite extensive searches, Jared was never found. Case 4. Paula Jean Welden. Location: Long Trail, Vermont. In 1946, Paula Welden went for a hike along Vermont's Long Trail. She was seen by multiple witnesses. One witness watched her turn a corner in the trail. Moments later, she was gone. Search limitations. Historical. At the time, no modern tracking technology, limited coordination, fewer trained SAR teams. Terrain reality. The Long Trail includes dense forest, steep drop-offs, remote sections. Even today, it's considered challenging terrain. Why evidence disappears. Over time, weather erases tracks, wildlife disturbs remains, vegetation regrows. In some environments, evidence can disappear within days. Her disappearance led to the creation of the Vermont State Police, but she was never found. Case 5. Stephen Kubacki. Location: Lake Michigan. Stephen Kubacki disappeared near Lake Michigan. Footprints were found leading onto the ice, then they stopped. The unexpected return. Over a year later, he reappeared, alive, but with no memory of what had happened. Environmental reality. Frozen lake environments are extremely dangerous. Thin ice zones, hypothermia in minutes, disorientation, survival impossibility. Under normal conditions, survival without shelter would be unlikely. Yet Kubacki survived. This case remains one of the most unusual on record. Patterns and expert insight. Across these cases, certain patterns appear: sudden disappearance, limited evidence, failed tracking efforts, difficult terrain. Search and rescue experts emphasize: nature is unpredictable, terrain hides evidence, weather erases trails, and human perception is often unreliable in extreme environments. Not every mystery has an extraordinary explanation, but some cases leave behind more questions than answers. And in the wilderness, it doesn't take much to disappear. Sometimes all it takes is a few seconds, a change in direction, or a moment no one was looking, and after that, there's only silence.